I raised my sister's abandoned baby as my own for 25 years, then her entitled daughter demanded I buy her a new car. Hey everyone. Before we kick off today's video, I've got a favor to ask. We've noticed our channel isn't getting as much love lately, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and it means we can keep bringing you awesome content. Your support really means a lot, so let's work together to keep this channel growing. Thanks a bunch. Now, let's dive into the video. Oh man, where do I start? So, when I told my sister no, she went and trashed my son's car. I'm 43 now, and my family drama goes way back. My sister, who's 47, had a baby named Luke when she was 22, and I was just 18. From the get-go, both she and her boyfriend, who's now her husband, acted like Luke was invisible. They partied hard, left Luke with whoever was free, and didn't bother to check in. I'd come home from school and find Luke in a dirty diaper that hadn't been changed for hours. It broke my heart, and I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. Even though I was scared and way too young, I stepped up because nobody else would. My grandma, bless her soul, helped out. She took care of Luke while I finished high school, and in exchange, I cleaned her house and cooked on weekends. It wasn't perfect, but we made do. My parents? They weren't much help either, tossing me $100 a month for Luke, which barely covered anything. Baby formula alone was a budget killer, never mind diapers, clothes, and doctor visits. My grandma and I were the only ones who truly cared. I even skipped my senior prom because I couldn't afford a dress and Luke's formula that month. Not that I regret it, but it just shows how things were. After I finished high school, things got worse. My parents decided they'd had enough of us being around. I came home one day to find my stuff packed in garbage bags by the door. My sister had the nerve to say she wished she'd never had Luke. Who talks about their kid like that? I'll never forget the way Luke looked at me, clueless about what was happening. My grandma and I ended up going to a family lawyer, and my sister and her husband signed away their parental rights without a second thought. It was like they were getting rid of an old piece of furniture. So, I became Luke's guardian at barely 19, moved in with my grandma, went to community college, and worked this crappy retail job that paid peanuts. Balancing studying, work, and taking care of Luke was exhausting. Sometimes I'd conk out at the kitchen table, waking up with drool all over my books. Things got even tougher when my grandma passed when Luke was 6. Those first weeks were a nightmare. She left most of her things to me, including her house, which suddenly made my family interested in reconnecting. Yeah, right. They thought they could get a piece of the pie. The house wasn't even fancy, just a cozy 2-bedroom in an older area. But it was a home for Luke and me. I told my family to shape up or ship out. My dad actually made an effort, and now we're close. He helps with the kids and calls regularly. My mom and I don't talk much, but at least she's nice to Luke when she sees him, though that's rare. Around this time, I met my now husband at community college. He was taking night classes while working during the day. We clicked right away, but I was super cautious about introducing him to Luke. I didn't want Luke getting attached to someone who might bail. After dating for a year, I finally let them meet. I was a bundle of nerves, barely able to eat, but they hit it off instantly. My husband, who's great with kids, treated Luke like he was gold from day one. They'd play video games for hours, and he'd read bedtime stories with different voices. Those little things meant the world to Luke. When Luke was 8, both my sister and I got pregnant around the same time. I found out first, and a month later, my dad told me my sister was pregnant too. Suddenly, my sister wanted back into Luke's life. At first, I thought her pregnancy made her realize what she missed, and maybe reconnecting with Luke would be good. Boy, was I wrong. She started filling his head with garbage, saying my husband and I wouldn't love him anymore once our own baby arrived. She'd say things like, "They're going to have their real baby now, so they probably won't want you anymore." It was beyond cruel to say that to a kid. We found out about everything when Luke, in tears, begged us not to leave him. He was crying so hard he could barely talk, but eventually, he told us what my sister and her husband had been saying, and I was furious. Luke knows he's not my biological son, but in every way that counts, he's truly my son. We've always been open about his background, but we made sure he knew he was loved and wanted. I cut off contact with my sister and her husband after that. We went to family therapy as well as individual sessions for Luke. The therapist explained that some kids might feel rejected by their birth parents and blame themselves, so we wanted to ensure Luke knew it wasn't his fault. When I had my second kid, my first pregnancy, which feels odd to say, I made sure Luke knew our love for him hadn't changed. Those first few months with a newborn and an 8-year-old were challenging. I was recovering from a C-section, constantly breastfeeding, and making sure Luke didn't feel left out. My husband took some time off work, and my dad would often take Luke to the park or movies for some special time without the baby. Luke was incredible with his baby brother, so gentle and protective from day one. A couple of years later, my sister got in touch, sending a long email admitting she was wrong and wanted to fix things. I wasn't convinced at first, but she kept trying. After discussing it with my husband and Luke, we decided on low contact, meaning we'd see them at family events and sometimes let my niece, my sister's daughter, hang out with our kids, but not more than that. I never left Luke alone with her and always checked in with him afterward. Over the years, my husband and I did pretty well. He finished his degree, got a good job, and I became a nurse. We bought a bigger house in a nice neighborhood with good schools, living comfortably while my sister and her husband often struggled, constantly between jobs or dealing with some crisis. Her husband would work for a few months and then quit because he didn't like the atmosphere. They've moved 4 times in 10 years due to evictions. My kids are into extracurriculars. Luke was into baseball and now the debate club, while my younger son loves football and programming. We give nice presents at Christmas and birthdays and go on a big trip every summer. Last year, we rented a beach house for 2 weeks. My sister and her husband can't do much of that, and I feel bad for my niece. It's not her fault her parents are like this. When my niece was around 9, my sister started asking me to pay for various things for her, from school supplies to dance classes, summer camp, or new phones. I told her that wasn't my responsibility. I'd give my niece nice gifts and take her out sometimes, but not like I did with my own kids. Why would I? Once, my sister asked me to pay for my niece's school pictures because she forgot it was picture day and didn't have the money. I sent $30 for the basic package but found out later she spent it on cigarettes, and my niece didn't get her pictures. After that, I started buying things directly for my niece instead of giving money to my sister. Things were relatively calm for a few years. We'd see each other at family gatherings, exchange pleasantries, and move on. My niece would occasionally visit and hang out with my boys, playing video games or watching movies, and it all seemed fine. No major drama, just the occasional remark from my sister about our house or car. So now, my second son is turning 17, and we're thinking of getting him a cheap first car like we did for Luke when he turned 17. Nothing fancy, just a used Honda with good mileage and safety. Luke contributed some of his own money from his part-time job and is responsible for gas and helping with insurance, a good lesson in responsibility. My niece is also turning 17 around the same time, and my sister told her she'd be getting a car too. The problem is my sister can't afford it, so she called me up, saying, "So Emily's birthday is coming up, and she's expecting a car like." So, the other day, my sister hit me up with this wild assumption that I should buy her daughter a car, just because, we've got a bit of cash. I was floored. I straight up told her that I wasn't about to buy her daughter a car. I never promised anything like that, and seriously, it's not my job. Well, she got all heated, accusing me of thinking I'm better than her, always being the favored one, and how it's so unfair that her daughter doesn't get the fancy stuff we have. I maybe went a little too far when I said that if she or her husband could keep a job for more than 6 months, maybe they could buy things like that for their daughter too. Yeah, probably wasn't my finest moment. Anyway, my sister got super mad and stopped talking to me, which, to be honest, was a bit of a relief. I figured she'd let the whole car idea go and would help my niece figure out another way, like saving up with a part-time job or something reasonable. Fast forward, my son's 17th birthday rolls around, and we surprise him with a car. He was over the moon, jumping around and hugging everyone. It was a sweet moment. But then, a few days later, my niece called me, absolutely losing it. She was crying and yelling about how I must hate her and saying it's unfair that I don't treat her like my son, Luke. Apparently, she'd been telling her friends she was getting a car too, and now she felt like a liar because of me. I tried to stay calm and explain the difference. Luke is my son, and she's my niece. As her aunt, I do birthday and Christmas presents, but that's about it. I told her, a bit bluntly, that my son will always mean more to me. It was harsh, and as soon as I said it, I knew it sounded bad, but it's the truth. I've been there for every part of Luke's life, and I see my niece a few times a year. Naturally, my sister caught wind of our conversation and called to tell me off. She claimed I was playing favorites and it wasn't fair to Emily. I told her, point blank, that if she hadn't made promises with my money to her kid, none of this would have happened. I suggested she try being more of an actual parent instead of expecting others to foot the bill. It's been a few days, and now I'm getting bombarded with calls and texts from family and friends of my sister's, calling me all sorts of lovely names. Even my mom's sister called, saying I should be ashamed for not helping family in need. I was tempted to ask where she was when I was 18 and raising a baby, but I just hung up. Sure, I feel a little guilty because my kids have had more than my niece. Maybe I could have helped more, but buying a car? That's a huge deal. My boys earn what they have, they get good grades, help around the house, and work part-time jobs. From what I know, my niece doesn't exactly rise to that level of responsibility. So, am I in the wrong for what I said to my niece? Quick update, wow, I did not see this post blowing up like it did. Thanks for all the awards and advice. I really appreciate everyone's input, even those who think I messed up. Some of you brought up good points on handling things better. Let me clarify a couple of things. I never let my sister hurt my kids, as some seem to think. The low contact was mostly for my niece's benefit. We'd coordinate for birthdays or holidays, discussing when I'd pick up my niece and drop her off. My sister never took care of my kids, visited my house, or spoke to them without me or my husband around. Some wondered why I didn't cut ties after that incident with Luke at age 8. Honestly, I should have. But my dad wanted to maintain some family connection, and I felt guilty. Plus, Emily was a baby then, it's not her fault her mom is how she is. Another reason for trying to keep things civil is that Emily and my other son, let's call him Justin, went to the same school. My sister was always at their events, and it would have been super awkward to ignore her in front of other parents. So, we did this weird dance. So, my kids and their cousin Emily, for the most part, all got along just fine before this whole car drama kicked off. Justin and Emily were in the same grade, so they ended up in a few classes together over the years. They weren't super tight, but they got along, and Justin even helped Emily out with math because she struggled with it a bit. Emily and Luke were friendly too, but with a bigger age gap between them, they didn't hang out as much. I always made sure my kids were cool with how often my sister popped into their lives, which wasn't much, just the usual school events and family get-togethers. Luke, in particular, was someone I kept an eye on since he seemed to have some trust issues with my sister, which, honestly, I totally get. Anyway, Emily called me all upset the other day, and I thought meeting up with her at the park near my place would be better than having her over. It was this strangely warm spring day, and I couldn't help but think how ridiculous it was to be having such an intense conversation on such a nice day. Emily showed up looking pretty worn out, like she hadn't slept well. I treated us both to some ice cream, not a great lunch, but hey, it's ice cream, and we sat at a slightly secluded picnic table. I gently but clearly explained that it wasn't my job to buy her a car because, well, I'm not her parent. She seemed to get it but was jealous that Luke and Justin got everything they wanted, or at least that's how she saw it. I had to clear up a couple of things. First, even though biologically Luke's her brother, he's basically been brought up as her cousin. Second, my boys don't just get handed everything. They work for it by doing well in school, helping around the house, and, mostly, staying out of trouble, except for that time Justin tried sneaking out to a party, but that's a story for another time. Then I asked Emily what was really bugging her since she hadn't made a fuss about these differences before. She stayed quiet for a bit, picking at her ice cream wrapper, and then started crying. She said it wasn't fair that Luke and Justin got it all while she felt she got the short end of the stick. She thought Luke got lucky being adopted by my husband and me, and she felt she deserved the same because we're family. I felt bad for her, I really did. I mean, it's not her fault her parents are kind of crappy, but I wasn't going to take on the same responsibility for her as I did for Luke. That was a whole different ball game, and I was a different person back then, maybe a bit naive. I told her I loved her, but she wasn't my responsibility. Her parents should be stepping up to help her, like finding a job so she could save up for a car or exploring other transportation options. She just stared at the ground, saying nothing, so I asked why this was suddenly such a big deal. Eventually, she admitted that even though her parents took care of her basic needs, she felt like just an obligation to them. She was jealous because we didn't seem to treat our boys like that, we always worked through things together. It broke my heart when she said sometimes she wished I had taken her in too, just like I did with Luke. But what was I supposed to do, kidnap her as a kid? Her parents weren't the best, but they provided the basics. I tried explaining that while I got where she was coming from, I wasn't going to treat her like my own child since I didn't raise her, even though I do care for her. Her parents were the ones who needed to help her with the car situation. She got upset and accused me of not caring, then left. I just sat there for a while, feeling pretty conflicted. Later, my husband and I had a long chat about everything and decided to call my sister to say we were going no contact. We were done with all the drama and guilt trips. My sister was curious about how I'd stay in touch with Emily, and I just said that she's almost an adult now and can reach out to me if she wants. So, the other day, she asked if I planned on buying a car for Emily. I was like, nope, that's her job. She's Emily's mom and needs to step up. Emily needs her to be a mom. Then I just hung up and blocked her number, thinking that it'd be the last I'd hear about it for a while. But nope, the next day, my mom calls, insisting I should at least give Emily some money for a car if I'm not buying one outright. I was like, no way. And hung up quickly to dodge a fight. Later, I called my dad and spilled the whole story. He was on my side and said he'd try to talk my mom into understanding, but clearly, that didn't go down well. A few days later, my dad showed up at my place, really upset. Turns out my mom took a big cut from their retirement fund and gave it to my sister, which led to a huge blow-up between them. So, Dad ended up packing a bag and crashing at a motel for a bit. I felt awful, like I'm in my 40s and still causing drama between my parents. Dad kept saying it wasn't my fault, that Mom made her own choices, but I still felt a bit guilty. I even offered him a place to stay, but he said he needed some space to think things over. So now, I'm not talking to my sister and Mom and keeping things low-key with my niece for the time being. My husband's all for cutting off everyone but Dad. I'm just not ready to cut ties with my niece yet. She's young and still trying to figure things out. None of this is her fault. Thanks again for all the advice, everyone. It's helped me feel a bit less crazy about this whole mess. So, update 2, a lot's gone on since I last filled you in, and honestly, most of it's not great. About a week after my last post, I thought it was time to talk to Emily again. I felt bad about how things ended when we last saw each other, and thought maybe we could meet halfway. I shot her a text asking if she wanted to meet, and she surprisingly said yes. We decided to catch up at my place when no one else was around, so we could have some privacy. The day was super rainy, fitting the whole gloomy mood perfectly. When she showed up, she wouldn't even look me in the eye, just kept her gaze on the floor or her phone. I asked if I could give her a hug, and when she nodded, she broke down in tears, apologizing for how she'd acted. I told her she didn't need to say sorry, that I understood she was hurt and let down. We sat in the living room with steaming mugs of hot chocolate, and I asked her more about what things are like at home. She mentioned that her dad's great but busy, working 2 jobs, one where he drives for Uber after his day job, so he's barely home. My sister's around more, but usually keeps to herself. Emily says there are days when she hardly talks to either of them, even if they're all at home. I asked her if she felt neglected, and she said no, but that they don't spend much family time together since her parents are always arguing, mostly about money. She said her mom sometimes makes her feel like a burden, but she knows they love her. It's just that they're always stressed about bills and stuff. When I asked about the money my mom gave from their retirement fund, Emily said she and my sister were planning to go car shopping soon. I was a bit taken aback that my sister had told her where the money came from, but I guess she doesn't see anything wrong with using it. I didn't want to say anything bad about it to Emily, that's between my sister and my parents. Then I brought up how she called Luke her brother and asked if she really feels that way. She admitted she sees him as more of a cousin and only pulled the brother card to get me to help. Even though they're technically siblings, they've always felt like cousins. I asked if she knew how I ended up adopting Luke, and she said she did. Her dad had given her the straight-up truth, while my sister had sugarcoated it. Just to clear things up, Luke sees her as a cousin too. To him, his only sibling is Justin. They've always been super close. Luke's protective but gives Justin a hard time like any big brother would. Feeling like we were making some progress, I offered to pay for her therapy. My husband was on board when I brought it up later. Emily said she'd think about it. I also proposed we could have some fun together on Saturdays, just the 2 of us, no Justin or Luke. She lit up at the idea. So, that weekend, we had our first outing and hit up this fancy restaurant she'd been wanting to try, one of those places where they cook right in front of you. Wow, so here's how it went down. I splurged on something pricey, but seeing her smile made it all worthwhile. Afterwards, we hit up a bookstore because she's all about reading, and I snagged a few books she had been eyeing. She was genuinely happy, and I felt like we might have turned a corner in our relationship. But then, everything went sideways. The next weekend, Emily and I planned a second weekend out, but I had to bail because Justin ended up in the hospital. During football practice, he started wheezing and took his inhaler but didn't chill for a bit before jumping back in. He's had asthma forever but usually keeps it under control. This time, he got tackled hard, which knocked the wind out of him and led to a nasty asthma attack. It was a Friday, and Justin was in the hospital until Sunday. It was terrifying. His oxygen levels dropped dangerously low, and there was talk of a ventilator. Thankfully, it didn't come to that, but I stuck by his side the whole time. I was supposed to go out with Emily that Saturday. I called her to cancel, but she flipped out, saying I didn't care about her, and hung up before I could explain. I was stunned, but I was also dealing with my son in the hospital, so I couldn't focus on chasing after her. I tried calling her again, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted her that Justin was in the hospital and we could reschedule, but she didn't respond. Fast forward to 2 days ago, my first time out with the family since Justin recovered. Mid-dinner, our neighbors called to say someone was trashing one of our cars, and they called the cops. We dashed home to find the police there inspecting Justin's car. It was messed up, scratches, dents, spray-painted insults, and 2 smashed windows. Justin was heartbroken, just silently staring at the wreckage. Thank goodness for the security cameras my husband insisted on last year. The footage made it clear, Emily and some girl I didn't recognize were the culprits. They were laughing, taking selfies while vandalizing the car. They wreaked havoc for nearly 20 minutes before getting spotted. My husband handed over the video to the cops, and Emily and her friend were picked up the next morning. I wasn't the one who pressed for an arrest, the police did once they saw the tape. The damage exceeds $5,000, which bumps it up to a felony around here. My sister and mom unleashed a storm at our place, claiming I was wrecking Emily's life and begging me to drop the charges. I told them it's not in my hands now. Emily can't just get away with this, it sends the wrong message. My husband and sons are standing firm on not dropping the charges. Justin worked hard to chip in for that car, and now it's trashed. Insurance might cover part of it, but not the whole deal, plus our rates are probably going up. The worst part is, Justin doesn't feel safe, knowing his cousin did this. I checked in with Luke about all this chaos since Emily is technically his half-sister. He's been pretty quiet amid the drama, but he's done. He thinks cutting ties is for the best, seeing Emily follow in her mom's footsteps. So we're distancing ourselves from everyone but my dad, who's been on our side. He agrees Emily needs to face the music. My mom is still making excuses, saying it's our fault for not helping with the car initially. It feels like family drama déjà vu, and I'm worn out. Emily's 17, so she'll likely be charged as a minor, but it's a big deal. Meanwhile, my sister's talking about suing us, despite the clear video proof of what went down.